Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Everything Medicare Podcast. I'm your host, Christian Brindle, where every single week I bring you a podcast where I talk about your Medicare, your Medicaid, your Social Security, and everything that has to do with your retirement. Last week, we announced that we will no longer be doing our podcast on Mondays like we have been doing historically since we started this earlier this year. Due to the upcoming enrollment period, as you can imagine, our company, working with people on Medicare all over Utah and in other states that we work in, we just don't have the time to bring you a podcast on Mondays, as Mondays is our busiest day of the week. So we will now be bringing you a podcast starting on Sunday. We may go back to Monday after the enrollment period. We'll see how it goes. We'll see what kind of feedback we get. So we will see when that time comes. But at least until December 7th, the end of the enrollment period, the podcast will be brought to you every single Sunday. Today is September the 23rd on Sunday, obviously, like I just said. And tomorrow we will be a week away from October 1st, the start of the madness. And this episode, last week we did an episode about people on Medicare Advantage plans and exactly what they can expect, them getting their ANOCs in the mail, which is short for Annual Notice of Change. See how I'm hip to the times, and I know all these abbreviations. We're talking this week about Medicare supplements, Megigaps, and what people on Megigaps, Medicare supplements, should know about entering in the enrollment period. Maybe you've been on a Medicare supplement for a while. Maybe you just got on one earlier this year from turning 65. Now, regardless of your situation, I'm going to be able to bring you some type of valuable information that you need to know going into the enrollment period. The first thing, and the easiest thing for me to tell you, is the annual enrollment period, as far as your Medicare supplement goes, has nothing to do with you. That's right. People hear the annual enrollment period and the open enrollment period and the time period where everybody can change their plans, which obviously is October 15th through December 7th. It doesn't have anything to do with Megigaps, folks. The only reason why the open enrollment period will affect you on your Medicare supplement is if you want to go from a Medicare supplement to a Medicare Advantage plan, because this is the only time of year coming up here that you can do that. If you want to do that, if you feel like you're paying too much premium on your Megigap, if you feel like you just don't use it enough to make it worth your while, I understand that. There's a lot of people in that ballpark. But other than that, it doesn't affect you. Remember this. Megigaps never, ever change their coverage. They are the same every single year going forward. They don't adapt, change, or tweak their coverage for the better or worse like a Medicare Advantage and a prescription drug plan does. So the coverage that you picked up when you got it is going to be the same going forward. The only things that Megigaps change is the premiums. They raise the premiums every year as you get older. But if your agent did a good job on your Medigap plan with you, you should really only be looking at 3 to 5, maybe even 6, 7, or 8% rate increase per year, at least in the single digits, not over 10%, always under 10%. But our goal is always 3 to 5% rate increase average for our clients and our customers. So one thing that people get caught up on is, well, the rate's going up every year, I want to compare it. But what people don't understand is every year you get older, a Medigap with every insurance company will cost you more at 66 than it did at 65. That's number one. Number two, because of inflation and the ever-increasing costs of healthcare, the prices go up for newer people on these other Medicare supplement companies as well. So as you get older, the prices that they will offer you should stay on par with what you already have. So your rate, even as it goes up, will still remain competitive for years to come. That's the idea of it. Stay with me into segment 2. We'll talk more about Medigap's Medicare supplements and what you need to know for the enrollment period. Welcome back to segment 2 of this week's Everything Medicare Podcast. Folks, this week we're talking about Medigap's and Medicare supplements and what you need to know going into the open enrollment period, or the annual election period, as some people call it, AEP for short. One thing that people don't realize is everything in the Medicare world has multiple names and abbreviations. It's just the way it is, folks. And I've told you this before, and I've been very outspoken about this. I believe that the government is in charge of designing everything about how Medicare operates and works. And I believe that they have a vested interest in keeping people confused and making sure that people don't know what they're doing so that they can't make the most of what they are required to be offered for Medicare. I honestly believe that. But that's not what we're talking about. Maybe we'll talk about that. Maybe we'll dedicate an entire episode to that later down the road. I might get myself in trouble one of these days saying things like that. But it's the truth. Folks, this week we're talking about Medigap's Medicare supplements and everything you need to know for the enrollment period. So we're talking about, last segment I kind of went over, Medigaps don't change. The reason why you'd want to revisit your Medigap is if you worked with a company that didn't have your best interests in mind and put you with an insurance company, or an insurance agent did this for you, put you with an insurance company that had dramatically high rate increases, and you want to compare and get a new Medigap and, go through underwriting and health questions and all that stuff to get a better rate. I've talked in nauseating detail about Medigap's and Medicare supplements and what to look for, what not to look for. I'm not going to go into that in this podcast episode. I've done it in episodes past. Go back, listen to some of my specific Medigap and Medicare supplement episodes if you want to know what to look for and what to avoid, and not necessarily always going for the lowest price, because, and there's a lot of reasons to that. But I'm not going to go over that in this episode. I'm not because I don't have time, because there's so much I need to talk about this topic. But if you want to change your Medigap to another Medigap, the enrollment period has nothing to do with it, folks. Nothing at all. Because Medigaps, unlike other types of Medicare plans, you can change them any time of the year that you want to. It does not have to be during the enrollment period. They are month to month. You can change them any time of the year round. So, yeah, you can change them during an enrollment period, but there's nothing special about the enrollment period. You can change them anytime you want. The only reason why it has any type of substance, if you have a Medigap and you want to change something, is if you're changing that Medigap to a Medicare Advantage plan, because it's the only time of the year you can do that. Okay? Now, most people that have Medigaps, I'd say 95%, maybe even more, have Medicare prescription drug plans as well. And those plans, the drug plan that you have, will be going through changes during the open enrollment period. And that's what you need to compare and check on. Not your Medigap, but your drug plan. Your Part D as in dog plan. Because the insurance companies are either raising the price, lowering the price, they're changing the formulary. Your coverage is either getting better, getting worse, depending on what the medications you take. Every single Medicare Part D prescription drug plan has formularies, meaning that they classify different prescriptions in different categories, and that affects your copay for that medication. And two different types of drug plans can classify the same plan in two different categories, and that affects how much you pay. And different plans work better with certain pharmacies, so there might be a plan that works better with your pharmacy. There's a lot of things that you need to look at, and a good agent will be able to do that. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of not good agents out there, but that's not what we're talking about. Basically, folks, what we are talking about is have your prescription drug plan checked. And there's also always new prescription drug plans, not always, but a lot of times there's new prescription drug plans coming into the market that weren't available to you when you signed up that are available in 2019, and you might want to check on that. So prescription drug plans, that's what you need to be comparing, not your Megigap. I mean, it doesn't mean you can't, but you can do that anytime. It doesn't have to be during the enrollment period. I'm not saying you can't or shouldn't or anything like that, but there's nothing special about the enrollment period with the Megigap. The drug plan is what you need to compare. Stay with me into segment 3. We're going to close this podcast out, and I love you guys for listening. Stay put. Welcome back to segment 3 of the Everything Medicare Podcast, folks. Folks, the enrollment period is a week away starting tomorrow. It's a week from tomorrow, Monday. Today's Sunday, the 23rd, that I'm talking to you and bringing you this podcast. Folks, I just want to close it out. I'm gonna bring you a podcast a week from today, next Sunday, on the 30th, the day before the 1st. And that will be the last podcast I'll be bringing you before the start of the madness. October 1st is when the insurance companies can roll out new, not roll out, they can fully disclose all the changes going forward. So basically, that's when the madness starts. I mean, I've had people be getting, cold calls from people they don't know in other states, which is highly illegal, I should say. So if anyone cold calls you that you did not request, I encourage you to, if they continuously do it, even after you've asked them not to, I would recommend turning them in, because they're probably affecting a lot of people in a negative way, and they don't have any respect for you, first and foremost. Folks, be careful who you do business with during this enrollment period. The story came out today in southern Utah. Well, Utah is where I live and where our company is. But a story came out today, and I posted it on our Facebook page and on our Twitter page and on our LinkedIn page. I put it all over the place when I saw it. There was an insurance agent that worked for an insurance agency in southern Utah. Now, I'm in the Salt Lake area. I'm more towards northern Utah. But this was southern Utah, kind of near the St. George area. Anybody that knows the Utah area or has been here before, who basically took 20 names of clients that company had done business with and enrolled them into life insurance under fake bank accounts, used their social securities, forged their signatures, took the commissions, and ran. It's a scary world we live in today, and I was just horrified when I read the article. The guy got caught, thankfully. He's in big trouble. I don't know exactly what's going to happen to him, but I'm assuming he'll be facing some prison time for forging signatures, fraud, all kinds of things. Insurance fraud, which is not taken lightly. Just be careful who you do business with. There's a lot of shady individuals in the insurance industry, a lot of shady individuals passing themselves as insurance experts, Medicare experts, and insurance agents, and there's very, very few good ones out there. Don't get me wrong, there are good ones out there. I'm not that type of person that's saying I'm the only good one, but let's face reality. You hear stories like this all the time, and there are so many people out there that don't have your best interests in mind, and they might not forge your name on an insurance policy that you never requested or had any knowledge of, but they will do other things that don't have your best interests in mind and put you in a bad situation. So just be very, very careful who you're working with. Folks, I just wanted to thank you for listening. Our podcast has been listened to over 1,500 times. We're averaging about 70 listens per episode, and I'm just very flattered that people come back and listen every week. And if you found this podcast beneficial, please give us a review. If the website you're listening to us on allows you to do so, thanks to our friends at Anchor, we bring you a podcast every week on 9 different platforms, on Spotify, on iTunes, obviously on Anchor, on Google Cast, on all different kinds of places. And I'm very, very flattered that you spend the time of your day to listen to me talk about the most boring subject known to man. Folks, if you want to support this podcast, you're always welcome to donate. Go to our company's Instagram page, Christian Brindle Insurance, and click the link in the bio. If you'd like to support us, you don't have to, but if you want to see a podcast more often, I've made it clear that if we get enough support, we will start bringing you podcasts 2, maybe even 3 times a week. Also, if you want to know what to do and really want to know if you want to know more than all of your friends, your family, your neighbors, everybody, and you want to be able to make sure you understand what you're having, because in my opinion, I'm of the belief that to really make a good decision, you have to understand it. And I do my best to educate people and help them understand the best I can, but you need to understand it. I wrote a book about this. It's on Amazon, and it's been out for 2 years. If you really want to understand Medicare, it's a great read for you. It's a beautiful little red book called, what is it called? I'm having a brain freeze. I'm not checked all the way in, folks. Oh, it is my Medicare guide. Okay. And it guides you through Medicare. It's a beautiful little red book. It's 50 pages, big font, and I did that because I wanted people to be able to get through it easily. No fluff. It has a chapter on Medicare supplements, a chapter on Part D plans, a chapter on Medicare Advantage plans, everything that you need to know, the origins of Medicare. That book is on sale for Amazon for $5.50. For that price, we're practically giving it away. Go pick it up on Amazon. Go search Christian Brindle on Amazon, and it's called Medicare Guidance, Picking the Plan for You. Medicare Guidance, Picking the Plan for You. I've written several books, so forgive me for mixing up the title. Also, folks, follow us on your favorite social media platform. Like I mentioned, on Instagram, we're Christian Brindle Insurance. On Facebook, we're Christian Brindle Insurance Services. On Twitter, we're Christian Brindle without the E altogether because we couldn't fit all the letters. On LinkedIn, Christian Brindle, and on YouTube, Christian Brindle, where you can watch some of our educational Medicare videos and see my beautiful face. Not really. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your support. You folks are fantastic. And I can't wait to talk to you next week. And then here we go. The annual enrollment period is here. And wish us luck. Hope you have a great week. And I'll talk to you next week.